I'm Melina Hammer. I'm an award-winning food stylist and photographer, cookbook author, recipe developer, and the owner of the Hudson Valley Getaway Catbird Cottage. Today, I'm going to make a blueberry skillet galette. I love using a skillet to make a galette, and today, the All-Clad D3 saute pan is going to be my baby. I love in my region that I'm able to forage wild blueberries, but any blueberries will work great. I'm always looking for new recipes to make. So today is this beautiful galette. It's large enough, it feeds a crowd. It's a really nice way to share the fruits of your labor. So first I'm gonna make my pastry dough. I love using spelt and other whole grain flours when I make pastry doughs, partially for their health benefits, but also for flavor. And spelt imparts a really delicious nutty quality. In go the flours and a teaspoon each of salt and sugar. And I'm just gonna pulse that real quick. And then I love using freezer cold cubed butter because it'll hold its shape as it gets incorporated into the dry ingredients. I like to pulse this just until pea-sized bits form. Going slower is always better because you can always go further, but you can't necessarily go back. We're gonna add an egg. This helps make the dough even more elastic. I like to use apple cider vinegar and ice water. I'm gonna add a little more water, and I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit at a time and pulse until a dough forms. And I want this as cold as possible. Helps keep everything nice and organized. Those wonderful little blobs of butter are what we want to have confronted with that blasting hot oven. If it comes together, it's ready. And that's what it's doing. So we're gonna empty it out onto the work surface. So empty it out, see how easy that is. And all these last bits are super important. There's a lot of good butter and egg mixture at the bottom. What I do is I like to use opposite corners, just bringing everything together. So once that's ready, I just fold it, wrap it securely. So now that it's patted into a nice cohesive disc, I'm gonna refrigerate it for about 20 minutes so that it can meld and that it mellows, and then we'll roll it out. The filling for my blueberry galette is fairly simple, but I love adding a couple extras. Booze always makes things better. And today I'm going to use a little bit of brandy. And the wild card today is going to be a little bit of mole bitters, which add a little bit of sweet, spicy fun, which is more peripheral and background when you're eating it, but it adds a little bit of like, oh wow, this is really good and I don't know why. So that's why. So we've got a little bit of sugar and cornstarch. I love pairing orange and blueberries. I like to face my zester face up so I can see where I have zested and where to go next. So I'm gonna zest this orange, add that in, and then add my juice. Simple, fresh ingredients makes such a difference. And must not forget the brandy. And then lastly, a little pinch of salt really helps give another contrast without feeling like it's a salt-driven experience. There's just something about adding a little bit that, like adding the bitters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't have mole bitters, Angostura bitters is great. It's a really classic standard. You can use lemon bitters, orange bitters is really delicious. Really, it's such a small addition, but also a beautiful peripheral experience. Feel free to experiment, play. You're gonna end up with a delicious galette either way. And let that sit once it's all stirred together for about 20 minutes so that the juices come from those delicious, beautiful blueberries. This bowl is awesome. So I've brought the pastry disc out and I'm ready to roll my beautiful pastry out so it can fit the pan. And then I love using the cellophane and the parchment as protective layers. So I'm just gonna turn and roll out from the center to get my galette shape made. If you see it cracking at the edges, I might pause, bring it out, and with a bench scraper, just tidy that edge up a little bit. And I'll use this opportunity to peel it away, give it a little more flour dusting, place it back, and do the same. And keep going till it's ready. Rolling it from the center helps ensure that the edges don't get too thin and that you have an even surface from center all the way edge to edge. So I'm getting close to the edge of the parchment, and I know now that I want to check measurement. I'm going to do this once. One more time flouring. Reapply that, and a second piece. And then put the whole thing. And then flour this side. And we're just gonna see how much bigger. Bring the 3-quart pan over. I want it to exceed even more so that I know when I fold the galette edges over that I have enough room to envelop all that delicious blueberry filling. So a couple more rounds should be awesome. And we're getting really close. So I feel like we're there. And yes, if you're even longer, that is so totally fine. Bigger thing to keep in mind is the thickness of your pastry. So I can tell that it's still a little thicker at the center, and I want it to be basically the same thickness at the center as at the edges. I can see that this is a little thinner here, and I'm gonna roll this edge a little bit more so that they're more the same. So now, one last tidying up of my pastry. Crumbling edges. Who wants crumbling edges? I mean, come on. Let's do this. I'm gonna bring the All-Clad pan forward. I love the high sides on this pan. It's gonna really help me keep the shape of the galette as it bakes. So often I feel like freezing pies and galettes is crucial for them to keep their shape, but with this and the high sides, it's really one stop and perfect. I love that this is a 3-quart size saute pan because all of these gorgeous berries, and it's an abundant amount, are going to fit beautifully, and it makes the galette really shareable. So I'm just stirring it one more time. By the way, if the dough gets flabby at any point or smeary, refrigerate it and then pop it back in your workstation and fill it. So, stirring the filling and then emptying everything out. And I love scraping every last bit of juicy goodness from the bowl because there's the brandy, the bitters, and certainly the orange zest. And each of those elements is crucial for making the ultimate flavor of the galette. So now I'm going to fold the edges using the parchment to peel away some of that pastry as I work around, and a little bit of water. Dip my fingers in the water so that I can pleat those edges as I go and have them stay put. So just working around, making this luscious galette. These blueberries are just so happy. This last little bit I'm gonna fold in the other way. Continue, and then a little bit of egg wash. Egg wash makes for a really extra gold effect, and it's just a nice way to give a finished bronzed pastry, but also if you want to sprinkle the Demerara sugar or other toppings. If you're making a savory version, you could always do like a little Parmesan or black pepper, and it's an easy way to have those toppings, those sprinkles adhere. I love a glittery pastry, so I'm always reaching for the Demerara, and it makes it just sparkly visually, but it also is such a delicious, crunchy amplifier of the pastry dough. Now, I'm gonna sprinkle this beautiful coarse sugar. You could also use turbinado or other coarse sugar if you find Demerara hard to come by. Both work great. You can be as liberal or as frugal with the sugar as you like. Just coat the surface. Now that the sugar's been applied, I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator one more time, about 20 minutes or so, just so that the galette has a chance to firm up. And then it'll be met with that hot, hot oven and make that gorgeous crust we also love. So now this has just come out of the oven, and I'm gonna remove these foil strips. I love using foil strips. It's sort of like a little secret that I use all the time, because I want the galette pastry to be perfectly golden, and there's inevitably certain areas that are higher than others and that will brown sooner. So using these ensures that I can cover the areas that are already a little more browned, and the other areas can catch up. And it smells incredible. I'm gonna allow the galette to sit for about 40 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, so that the filling will set, and then we can cut into it and eat it. I'm going to dive in. I love how the high sides on this All-Clad D3 sauté pan have cooked the edges and the surfaces of this galette so beautifully. And now the moment of truth. Oh, that's gorgeous. I'm gonna bring up just a little bit more because I love abundant fruit. And then just a little bit of creme fraiche, ice cream if you like, and then dig in. This flaky crust, shatteringly delicious. With the high sides, I've been able to cook this galette evenly all the way around, and that is something to be proud of. You can find the recipe at Food52.